It's got to be time to put the compostable kitchen waste into the big compost bin. It's a bit of a hint when I can smell it, that's never good. But I suppose the benefit is I get to tell you about my compost bin. I'd like to say new, but it's not really. We've had it a few months. I haven't had the chance yet to talk to you about it. So we'll run the intro and then we'll talk about the HotBin Composter. Run that intro. I will apologise profusely because this is a rubbish camera angle, but it's quite a narrow little space and it's difficult to get your shot in here. Just to do you a quick, what is the composter? Well, this is it. As you can see, it's kind of basically like a big wheelie bin. It's the size of a wheelie bin. It feels like it's polystyrene, but it's actually apparently the same material they use to make the bumpers on cars. But what that does is provides a thermal shell that's all sealed, so you put your compost in and that heat it's generating isn't going anywhere. The idea being you're then able to compost at a really high temperature. They're saying about 60 degrees centigrade, which means you can compost almost anything and it happens quickly. So basically what you get is this big bin, okay? It's got a thermometer on top and a little air vent on top. It's got a lid and there's a little vent on the bottom, but also on this bottom this panel comes away, so that's where you would take your compost from. You take it from the bottom when it's ready. Lid just opens and you also get a thermometer that you can put on the inside if you want to just make sure that you've got that temperature correctly. Now let's talk about how I've found using it so far. Like I said, it's not new. We've had it about maybe 4 or 5 months. I have to confess, okay, we didn't get it running properly at first because I didn't read the instructions. I didn't do a proper research before I got it, so I got rid of all my old compost, cleared out the space, made it all nice and terribly neat, thinking I was going to be starting from scratch. And apparently the best thing you can do is start with some of your own compost, because this thing needs to be pretty much full to get it going to proper temperatures. So it took us a long time to get that up and running, and possibly over the 3-month mark before I saw it at those temperatures. Also what we've discovered is it is an incredibly hungry beastie. This thing, to keep those temperatures you need to be filling it all the time and filling it with a decent amount of stuff. So during the kind of winter, early spring months, we weren't able to keep up with that because there's just 2 of us in the house and we just don't generate that amount of kitchen waste. So we weren't ever seeing it really go past, I think 30 was the highest. That changed, however, now that spring and summer's coming in and we've got grass cuttings and weeds and all that kind of stuff. Boy, did we see a difference. It is now easily hitting the 60. So let me show you how it works, because there's a bit to it. You need to make sure you've got the right amount of different materials to get it just perfect. So I've got the compost bin from the kitchen to empty the scraps, so let's have a go and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so I mentioned earlier it's all about mixing things and getting the right different types of materials in there, your browns and your greens and what have you. So we have our kitchen waste, and like I said earlier, we don't have a lot of this because there's only 2 of us, so we did struggle early in the year. The other thing we struggled with was paper, because we're pretty much a paperless household, so we've had to steal paper from work when people have finished their newspapers and things and bring them home and shred them for this. So good mix. First thing you need is some paper, so that's what keeps the moisture level right, because you don't want it to be too wet. So depending on how much you've got to compost, if you're on the Hot Composter website, there are details of exactly how much they recommend, but like I say, it's going to depend on how much waste you've got to compost. So you've got your paper. The other thing you want, now they call these bulking chips or bulking material, but basically it's just lots of shredded wood, but you're just wanting some of this in there because you want it to create little sort of gaps to allow the air to get around, because you do need the oxygen to get in there and get around. Okay, so 2 handfuls of that. Horrible smelly kitchen waste. Now, the thing about the HotBin Composter is they claim that if you get it up to the proper temperatures, you can do all your kitchen waste, so you can be composting kind of like your cooked foods and your meats and stuff as well. So, you know, that's something to take into account, because with your normal compost pile, you might be wary of putting that kind of stuff in there. So I like to do this and give it a good mix before I tip it into the bin itself. Now I also have some grass that I'm going to put in there as well, which is why I added quite so much paper. Now what I do find is we have 2 large gardens, so the amount of grass we get when we cut the lawns is too much. One lawn will fill this bin for the space I've got left, so I have to leave the other one sitting in the greenhouse until this goes down. But I find when I put the grass in there, by the next day it's up at the 60-70 degrees temperature, and a couple of days later if you give it a mix around, you'll notice the level will really drop and you can get more in there. So the grass seems to really like grass. Unfortunately it means while this other grass is all sitting in the greenhouse, it's starting to go itself. It doesn't have pollen. That's it, basically ready to go in the bin. So, to give you an update then, I put the kitchen scraps and that little bit of grass into the hot composter 2 days ago. That's when I made the first part of this video. I had intended to finish it off the next day, but it has absolutely chucked it down with rain here. So this is the first day where it's been dry enough to go and get this stuff done. So a couple of things then, as you can see, temperature has gone up to 60, it's doing really well. Gone in there to give it a mix, and there's plenty of steam coming off it. It's so hot, you can actually feel so hot it is. So just that little bit of kitchen waste and grass has made a massive difference, and it really does bring it up to temperature. The one thing I'd like to know more about though is I think this is only the grass that does this. I haven't noticed it with anything else, but you'll have seen it in the video. In fact, I'll cut it in here, is the white webby mould that's grown on the grass. I mix it in, and as it all kind of gets composted up, that just vanishes and goes away. But I'd like to know what that is and what causes it. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Maybe somebody at the hot compost bin people can tell us about it. So there you go, so that's it. So you've seen it, it definitely works, definitely gets up to temperature. The question is, will we get compost in 3 months if we keep it up to that temperature? At the minute I can't tell you that, but you know I'll do you another video in a few months' time to update you and let you know. But at the moment, it does what it says in the tin. It's definitely hot for the hot compost bin. It is eating through stuff. You put it in there and it does drop down, so it's definitely eating through it, and it is much easier to cope with than my old big bin that had to be manually turned all the time. So at the minute from me, it is a big thumbs up. I'm really hoping that I'm going to do you an update in a few months' time and show you the lovely, amazing compost I get, because I'm feeling quite hopeful about this. So for now, HotBin Composter, big thumbs up.